right, here we go. So I'm going to be using the reference on the website that is you can access through the QR code on the back of this image. You just flip it over and there will be a QR code on the back of yours. So you'll see that the background is a bit different than you may want it to be. You can add any background you want, and that's what I'll do as well. Backgrounds should be maybe a little bit less detailed. I mean, as it is, they will be, unless you put a lot of work in. I'm also kind of trimming in this top feather where it sort of trails off. It's really faint up there. Just outlining with water. You can see, well, you can assume that, I mean, based on where my brush is going, that is where I am putting water. I'm just outlining this wing. There are two wings there. May not look as distinct as you want it, but that's what the paint is for. The watercolor, I should say. So just wetting the area I'm going to add some water to above and below the wing. This can be done pretty fast away from the wing. Just throw some water on there. A bigger brush would do this faster, and I'll post a link in the web page and the YouTube video to where you can get some bigger brushes that I would recommend. Good to have a mop, kind of a mop brush to push a bunch of water around. So you should consider getting one of those. It makes this so much faster. I'll make another video to show you how much faster down the road. But yeah, I'm just preparing the paper with a little bit of water, just priming it, adding as much as I can. Just a little bit of puddle up here. That's fine. All right. So, yeah, maybe a bit more, and we'll make this just a really light base color, which we can add more to as we work. So I'm going to add like maybe this limey kind of, scrub in some of the water. It's nice and light. Add it. It'll go anywhere the water is. Not anywhere. I mean, there's a sort of proximity problem. But it's going to be sort of foggy in this texture. Foggy green. And that's okay. We can add more distinct shapes and colors as we go, layer it up, add texture. I'm moving fast, but I'm also being patient. I'm putting down as much as I can quickly put down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the top more blue. And there's gradients, you know, like there's gradients in the sky and there's gradients. So the sky is going to be blue, dark blue at the top. Add a little bit more color there. You can see I got a little bit of green in my water right now, and that's fine. So I'm going to grab this dark blue for the very top. I don't usually think it's a great idea to use the darkest colors to start. But, you know, on the other hand, I also like painting very quickly. So, conflict. Just adding a sort of the sky blue, and you can add more water in places. You can see how that affects the paint. It sort of moves the paint on the page. Just painting quick, because I want to make sure that you can be entertained and get the gist of it more quickly, and see that it's not such a big deal what your first layer is, as long as you don't as long as you have control. It's fun to go fast and be in control. It's not fun when you lose control. All right. Just outlining it. And you can see I kind of start slowing down a little bit, and then I'm like, ugh, no, I've got to be in a hurry. It takes a long time to make a good painting, or you can make a very good painting very quickly. But I think it depends on how you practice. If you practice fast, you'll be good fast. If you practice slow, it'll take you a long time to find out if you're good or bad. But, I think it's good to just paint quickly and learn some things and then do better next time. So I think I'll get more of this green and throw it back into here, and you can see how that kind of makes an exciting color mix. Especially around the edges, we're getting a little bit of a drip. And I could add more of this blue at the top because skies are darker up high and lighter down low. You'll see that the paper is warping. Just, accept it. A lot of people try to deny the nature of watercolor and tape their paper down and be perfect, but I think you can just, worry about if it's flat or not later after you've put it under glass or, some other, you could decoupage this down to a table or something, I don't know, it's not going to come up then, or, just maybe add a little bit more of a drop of water and see what happens. And you know what, you can use gravity if you want. You can, whoops, oh, it's going everywhere, oh no, but, now we got this kind of thing going on. It's not just pooling at the edges, it's pooling at the top and all. So I saved some white areas. That's kind of exciting, just textural. All right, and then I've got this sort of shadow outline. So what we want to do is make the ground darker, and then we make the shadow darker than that. And I think we'll do that with, I guess we could do a darker green, or we could add a little bit of orange and red as sort of a complementary color kookiness. Complementary colors do amazing things if you just embrace it. Just look how exciting and bright this watercolor is. The last painting I did was a demo. I think I didn't go dark enough fast enough, and so we're going to go the other direction now and go fast and dark. And maybe I'll regret it and maybe I won't, but we'll have fun along the way, and it'll be an exciting painting. Fast strokes make exciting paintings, by the way. Working fast. Look how fast, geez, it's only been 8 minutes. Look how far we are. Go up to the edge of the feet, so it doesn't look like there's a halo on the bird. Unless you want the halo on the bird. Maybe a little bit of mix of both. But, remember, we're working in layers. That's the, you can't expect the paint to do all the work all the time. So I'm going to grab a different darker green. That's okay. You know what, I'm going to try this other green because I don't know what it looks like. It looks about the same as that other one. Yeah, geez, I feel like they give me, well, it's probably subtly different. You can see I haven't added any color to the shadow yet. That's all right. So I'm sort of creating this external shadow. I am not planning this at all, so. But I am like I said, using the photo reference, I haven't looked really up at it in a while because this is all imaginary ground. I'm going to let that dry just to keep the distinct lines of the shadows. So I guess in the meantime, I'll move on to our, maybe give sort of a light brown to the crane, as in the picture. Yeah. So it's got kind of a, geez. Yeah, so maybe I went a little too brown in some spots. I can pick that up, but you can see that the wings have a lot of different colors. And this is the lightest brown, so don't sweat too much. I mean, right now we are so much further, so much faster on this one than the last one. The last one, I don't think it was much more inhibited, the speed. So, just try to cover and, leave some white spaces. But know that this is going to get so much darker, and right now it just looks kind of like cartoonish, which is, an aesthetic. You can stop anywhere you want and it'll be, it'll be what it is. I'm going to try and push this one because, just, you don't know where it's going to end. Sometimes you go further than the end and, no regrets, you know what I mean? Just gotta, learn from that. And all right, and I am also keeping this little paper towel nearby to dry off my fingers so they don't get all pruny. All right, and then I can, doesn't have to look like the photo precisely, okay? Maybe I'll have a little bit of that and a little bit more water. Just, yeah. Good. All right. Feeling good about it. And so you can see that the wing, we're starting to pick up a line here, and there's an under the wing on the other side. So that's going to be harder. I mean, it's gray under the wing, so we can go with the color, but also it's darker, so by tone. The tone is darker, meaning if it was a black and white photo, I'm keeping it away from the very edge because that paint is wet in spots. I mean, I could probably go right up to it. But if you touch it, it could bleed over, okay? So just a little sensitivity and care. You can see how much darker this is, and then we get down into there, and it's a bit lighter, but maybe we'll use this. I'm excited about this. Grab some of the light blue, and we can make sort of a gradient. And like I told you before about the thirsty brush, squeeze out the water. You can lift, you can go parallel. Look how much lighter that becomes, and it gives it sort of that color and texture, and you can get the base of the feathers, because I think the tips of the feathers are a bit lighter than the bases of the feathers. And if nothing else, it just gives a texture, and while it's wet, you can pick it up. If you need to re-wet it, you may want to re-wet the whole feather, or not, you know, but you're gonna have be aware of the different edges that causes. If you wet the whole feather, you're gonna get an evenness, or a more gentler gradient, not so abrupt. If you only wet part of it, you're gonna get an edge, which, you know, edges are dramatic, exciting, so it's just a matter of choice. All sorts of choices. I'm liking the choices that we're making here. And again, like, we're just putting down, I mean, these colors are so light anyway, so, you know, as we work, these can get darker. And remember, there's sort of sunlight here on top. I don't know, almost imperceptible. I'm adding blue on this side, and maybe like a little bit more blue over here. Subtle, subtle, subtle. And there's sort of a rich brown on those long quill feathers that they have, these ones out here. So those will get much darker, and you know, and I'm trying to paint the whole thing. And maybe just touch of brown underneath. Is that where it is? Okay. And then, maybe the touch of red, because I'm gonna use that in some other places too. But I'm excited about how fast this is moving, and I want to put the red where the red goes, and save the eye for a little bit of yellow and orange. All right, and then, well, there's this dark green, and I'm gonna add, all right, so I think this is pretty close to dry, so, you know, you can see how the fluid is actually sort of dry, but also ready to interact with the edges by making it dark. I want to show you that as we fill this in, you know, it's pretty confined, so that's good. But if we add maybe a little bit of blue, yeah, you can see how it bleeds out a little bit. We can pick that up. And it's okay if it's on the foot, because I think that's pretty dark. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this. You can see it's darker. If you want to add a little bit of, take a risk, make a little excitement, you can grab some orange and, you know, well, I don't know if it works or not, but you can see that the orange and the blue are contrasting colors, and it will, if we add a little bit of red, I think more red in there. You can tell me if I'm ruining this, I don't care. I'm gonna pick up some of this right here, bleeding over, and pick some up off the foot. It's probably lighter than I want it, so, but, you know, add a bit more of the blue. If I had a little bit darker. All right. We can see there's like, yeah, okay, now we're getting it. So there's like this sort of vibration of the color, you know, where it's touching but not mixing. You see that orange right there? Cool stuff. You know, it's all an experiment, but I think it's pretty cool. It's a little dark, but you know, you can always, we can make the rest of it darker, and that will pop the rest of the, so I'm going to pick up this right here. As we make the rest of it darker, it won't look so dark. Really, this isn't even that dark. It just appears dark compared to the rest, which is so light. So, but I'm pumped up about this little edge that we've created with this orange in the grooves of the watercolor paper, the darkness, the texture, and then we have this blue and this green sort of mixing in a watery way. So I think we're taking advantage of the medium, the qualities of the medium, and we'll have a part 2 in a second. All right, so here we go, off to the races. So maybe get some of this dark brown, and yeah, let's say that. We'll see what happens. So I think it's dark under the wing there. Yeah, that's aggressively dark. I like strong moves. There's a maybe a little dark under here. That'll emphasize the light that's right next to it. And we'll make that. So I kind of pulled it underneath the line right there. Don't like that, but it's okay. And more here. And then, yeah, this is the bottom of this wing right here, so I'm gonna go dark here. There's actually kind of a lighter edge there, but not doing it. And grab some water just to wet the edge of the, you see how the water allows the paint to escape a little bit. So I'm following the direction of the feathers that way, but not necessarily guiding the actual movement. And then here we also have those dark feathers, and there's the quill of the feather is light, so I'm just going to wet around the quill, not actually get the quill. There's a little bit of an under thing there. This can be a little bit not the most precise, and that's okay. So these feathers, that's probably a warmer brown, like more on the reds than the blues. So but we have this darker brown right here, which is also maybe a bit warm, but I think it'll get us closer. I'm going to make a thirsty brush again. Yeah, it's very, very, very red, you see. Oh, and there's a spot I can touch up down here again. Blend that a little bit with a wet brush. And then be careful about getting your hand. You can feel it after you've made a mess. I'm going to pick this up some. So it's almost like just leaving the stain of the paint a little bit. Sort of mop it back up. Yeah, and I think, you know what, I think the darker brown is what's going to be what I want more along those wing edges. I'm going to get rid of, actually I'm going to clean up that brush, and I'm going to just add a little bit of water to these feathers. And it is very precise to avoid the quills of the feathers. Think about that as meditation. Try to do it from your shoulder rather than your wrist. Move with your shoulder. Your shoulder is a smoother joint to move from than your wrist. Your wrist has many flexible joints, and that reduces the stability. It gives it more flexibility and, dexterity, but the motion is less smooth because there's a coordination of joints. So think about your shoulder being one joint that moves in a lot of different planes or axes, however planes and axes, it's fine. But just add some water. Think about moving your arm from your shoulder just smoothly, subtly, just add that water. The second time it's easier to wet the paper. So that's kind of reassuring that, if you're just adding water, there's no risk. Well, nearly none unless you're scrubbing or picking up something you don't want to. I'm going to save these other feathers on the close proximal part of the wing. And I am going to add some of this brown. So I can pick up a ton, but I just want a little. And you just see the water will suck it down the feather quite effectively on its own. And it blends a little bit. If it's uneven, you can live with it a little bit. If you try to touch it up, it involves risk. You gotta decide whether you want to risk it. Or live with it. You can plant your wrist on the table and then move gently. Try to do it, and if you can do it in one stroke rather than the scrubby short strokes, you'll get a better texture, you'll have a better experience, but it takes a bit of discipline. But if you're losing the water, you can pick it back up again by, doing a second motion. So there's a lot to be done A lot of reasons to argue both ways. One motion is more impressive. You'll notice that a lot of the paint will collect in this end. So if you can get the tip of your brush down, and then you can go across the page and then press down further and further until you get to the edge. You'll squeeze the water out of the top of the brush. You can see how smooth these further ones are down here. One stroke will make a nice smooth. And if I want to smooth this one out, I think what I got to do is just pick it back up and have a thirsty brush. Yeah, that evens it all out, you know. If the last stroke you do is smooth, you end up with a smooth appearance. Not bad, not bad. All right, so I'll let this part dry, then I'll move to this as this is dry, and I can go back to here, get some darker, really dark. A little bit darker than I think I'm going to want it, but on the other hand, it's art. And it's good to take exaggerate colors and relationships, and oh yeah, that's beautiful darkness, and that really brings up how much darker I can really go. So and things become unclear because we're going from a line drawing to a color painting, so they become less distinct, but sometimes don't get too attached to the color. Try to think about, don't get too attached to the lines. Those are just, a good painting starts with a good drawing. It's okay to paint over your drawing, but that's part of this, is that I want you to be able to feel safe making mistakes on painting on a drawing that you didn't have to work too hard on, because there's a risk of destroying a drawing that you've worked on really hard, and then you want to learn how to paint. So we're trying to remove that kind of a challenge. I think there's a gradient going on in the reference photo from here dark up to here light on that proximal part of the wing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add water. Oh yeah, that's crazy. Not exactly what I intended, but pretty good. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to actually mess around with some of the here's a dark area. Here's a dark area. I'm going to tie some of these things together in I feel like I'm getting kind of hung up on the feathers because they're detailed, but we can do a good deal of work on the legs. And that'll tie it together. At least we can start working it up. So you can see I kind of went over on the edges there, here a little bit, but yeah, just thirsty brush, wet it, squeeze it out, pick up where it went too far. Just since there's not a large volume of water, it's pretty safe to, yeah, there we go. Sweet. All right, and then we can maybe pick up some here. You can move it a little bit, and then now there's a ton of water right here, so can pick up where it's supposed to be really light, and now you can see where it's really still dark. That's good because then you end up getting the separation from the close wing and the far wing. And then up here, there's the dark part of the wings. And man, that's just, I don't know, it feels sloppy to me, but it's just something you notice and no one else notices. Unless you notice, and I feel really ashamed. Oopsies. Didn't like that. Add a bit more water. Look at that muddy water. Yucky, yuck, yuck. It looks pretty muddy, but that's okay. And with that, so those are a little bit more blended together in the image, the photograph. I mean, it's kind of cool. Drag that up towards the base. All right, and then we can do a bit darker on. So I'm making that pretty dark. I feel like it's a cooler, darker. So I'm gonna do this quill feather here. That's dark. So. See, and it's not wet, so it stays in its place. And just follow those areas a little bit. You can see how it kind of works together, though. Oof. Pick that up right away because I went over the quill and I'm trying to keep those white, but I may have effed up. Okay, add water to these other ones just to drag those colors up a little bit. A little bit darker, but you know, you can pull it back. And you can see I saved the white. I feel good about saving the white on those. You know what, that quill's probably going to disappear. But I did save the white on a few of them. Most of them I did pretty good. You can layer it up. Oh yeah, there's a nice spot to put an edge. see it sort of bringing that paint back to life. You can lift it back up, and if I had a bigger, thicker brush to use right now, but I just want to make sure I'm using what this comes packaged with, so that, just so that it's a fair thing to follow. But man, like, better brushes, just one bigger brush, this is pretty sufficient. I think a bigger brush would be pretty good for it. All right, I can restore just a little bit of that. Maybe I can get more. Yeah, I think if I can get that up a little bit more, and then I can add a little bit of darkness once it's dry, because if I add it when it's wet, I'll just cover it right back up again. And I think if it dries some more, it'll give it another chance for fixing it up. Okay, and I think just need maybe a darker, is this the gray I want? Maybe a little bit of blue in there. Well, some blue would be nice. Okay, blue and gray. So if you take the blue and add it to the gray, this dark gray, it'll look more steely, and if you add the gray to the blue, it'll be more sky blue. But we can darken this up a bit, I think, and then add water. More water is going to be helpful. Alright, so I've covered those feathers, and now I can just do the thirsty brush once more, and I can hit those feathers right on them and lighten them up. And as the gray here is grayer, this makes these bluer. Yeah, you can see how that sort of makes that sort of gray. But also you bring back the light on top of the feathers. A lot of this is just working it back and forth. But sometimes people are worried about it. They're like, oh, I'll ruin what I've gained. But a lot of what we're doing is reversible. Especially the drier it gets, the less the paint can move around underneath. You can do more highlighting, picking up more and more. There's a chance that maybe clean water would help, but I don't know. It's really a judgment call, and what's working is working, so it, the risk is you also have to stand up, walk away from your painting, might get distracted in the kitchen, or it'll dry if you don't watch it, you know what I mean? Because if you watch the paint dry, it doesn't dry. But if you stop watching it, it'll dry instantly because of science. Under there. And as it dries again, you can get back into the paint, and then let's maybe add some. Well, that red is not dark enough. So what do we add to make it darker? Maybe some of this color, I think. Ooh. So I want to maybe get underneath. Yeah, there. Cool. All right. So that pumps up part of the red. We'll wait, and when that is done drying, we'll get the eye of the bird, bird's eye. Maybe some of this purple would be good with this brown. Getting experimental. We could maybe hit the beak and the legs. The legs are so dark, so you see this is super wet, what I'm doing right now. But it also dries a little bit because the paper is absorbent. Okay, and then thirsty brush. We've got kind of a purple stain on the beak. I mostly did that just because it's a dark color. Purple is a great dark color. Maybe it should have been more blue, but you know, I picked it up and I can pick up more of it probably. Just gonna recover some of this purple too. And the color you go with, like that's the color it is. People's brains will see it that way. I don't know if people would even say like, ooh, look, purple. They might. All right, and then between the toes, push it the direction I want to move. And maybe I'll lighten up this purple again. But you know what, that purple will always be there a little bit. And it's a good color. Probably just maybe a touch of brown to knock it down off the purple a little bit. And that's the thing, it's better to mix to the color you're trying to get to than to go directly to it. Just more exciting. Pick it back up. Somebody will say, oh, I like the purple. Good choice. Somebody will say that. And that'll be nice. All right. It's a lot further along. Maybe you could add just more splotches of this light brown on the top of the wing, and because it is kind of a splotchy bird. You just gotta believe in it. I'll probably darken up the foreground. Oh, we could grab some of this. It's a splotchy bird. Make sure you don't wipe out all the light colors. pick this up. I don't like the parallelness of that. I'm going to just dab it, just to get that sort of sense. That sort of dabbled. Dabble! Oh my gosh. And here's some really dark feathers here on top of the wing. But they're also kind of affected by the light. Nice. Yeah, and then we can darken a little bit at the bottom of the feathers, because I do have that a little bit. I mean, just try to keep up with I mean, you know, use your reference photos you desire. All right. Pretty all right. Get a little bit of orange for the eye. Did it work? No, I effed up. That's not too bad. Sometimes you gotta step away and take a look from further away. It's alright, there's some unsmoothness in this area. That's alright. Alright. So if you need to make it smoother, you can, you know, if you need a certain direction, you can pull it, rotate it, give it a pull. Those up just a little bit. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, you know, I think it's decent for now, and can be tuned up. Maybe we can just darken the background a little bit. going to try to accentuate what's already there. You know, not exactly precisely going over the lines that exist, but sort of creating overlapping kind of shadows, or not shadows. Brush strokes. I'll just call them brush strokes. You know, it may feel like you're overdoing it. May not. Just trying to give it a sense of belonging to the space and the earth. Try to get a little bit closer in with some of those textures. Colors, you can have some areas that are more vertical, like in the middle of the drawing, where it might be some trees. Horizontals might be the more like the ground and the grass, or the ground covering. Maybe some shorter kinds of verticals that might be something that I don't even know. But, you know, it's just different choices. You can give it like maybe a tree line or something up at the top. Make it a little uneven. Maybe those are shadows of tree branches right there. Playing directly over the bird, so it doesn't make us so isolated. Maybe another shadow over here. You know, compositional kind of shadow. Maybe a little bit of that orange in it. Maybe a little bit of the red. Looks like mud, but I'll say, yeah. You know, it's just shapes. People put together on their own. So I guess that I'm satisfied with it. Well, obviously my brush is still on the paper, so I'm not that satisfied, but you know, maybe it will be later. Yeah, it's neat.